Hi, Charles. But you still have a solid covenant. I think they don't even open that unless they're gonna shut your meter off. What they do is they read a remote anyway. They just drive by and read the.
It's like parking meters. They just zap it, right?
Yeah.
Just like parking.
Yep.
They know which ones are.
Right.
So what did we miss?
We had an executive session,
You didn't miss anything, you know.
we rescinded all the taxation.
You did?
Perfect.
Police are gone?
And we
We
built
don't
a
need
park.
it. We don't need it.
In the morning, no crossing guards? Thanks, Bruce.
Roads.
Yeah, you're gonna volunteer, yeah. I'll leave you to that.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to get other people.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
All right, picking up where we left off. Anything else?
I'd like to think of, Mayor. Thank you.
Does anyone here have any?
Oh, yeah.
Like a fire
Done?
angel, right?
Okay. Ms. Ariana, do you have anything to?
I have no word on that. Oh, sure, yes, everybody, did you get my email about the website? It's up, and I'd like to, you know, if anybody has any comments, I'd like to hear them. I think it was a little daunting getting myself acclimated with that software, but I got it really good now, and I really like it, and it's really easy to use, and it's been a lot of fun, the project, so I hope everybody enjoys it.
I took a look at it, it looks really nice, I didn't get a chance to go through every single,
It's a lot.
yeah, but from what I saw, it was very good,
Thank you.
I would second that. I'm very pleased with the final product. Again, the mobile version, I think, is wonderful, very user-friendly. I really like that it's very inviting when you first go to the homepage, quite a few photos up there of the town. And I think for those that, you know, live in the town, I think it's wonderful and much more user-friendly, like I said. And hopefully, you know, we can access, I know you said you'll be updating the calendar as time allows, and that's a way for hopefully residents to really use the website to get information about the borough, get updates and so forth on a more frequent basis. I think it really boosts our communication. I think for those that maybe have never heard of Garwood before and maybe they're looking to come live in this town, I think it's a very inviting website, and I think it will leave a very nice first impression on someone. So thanks for your help with that, Tina.
I too would like to thank Ms. Ariana for her hours of hard work. It's sometimes daunting when you're confronted with new software that's different than what you have been working with before. And I'm very pleased to hear that, you know, she finds it user-friendly. Just for the folks out there, the address is the same, it's just garwood.org. And, go take a look and access it. And as new things come in, they will be going up, and we will be keeping on top of that. Okay. Do we have any other unfinished business to discuss here? No? Any new business to discuss in workshop?
I do, I actually have one item, I was going to wait until my matters for discussion, but I can state it now. At the special budget meeting, we had a fairly lengthy discussion about the cap ordinance that was before us, and we introduced one at that meeting on Thursday. However, the question was raised whether or not we could separate it from the COLA ordinance versus the cap bank ordinance. So basically, it's this idea that because the cap bank has failed the past 2 years to be passed by the council, we're in a situation now that by state regulations, we cannot increase our appropriations as where we see them in this budget. We're actually only held to the COLA of 0.5%, meaning that we would only be able to raise our appropriation side $28,000 out of a $7 million budget. Now, the state regulation that governs this does not take into account any revenues that you anticipate, any surplus that you're going to take in to offset those increases. In fact, this is actually the best budget in the past 12 years. It's come in at the one we're looking at right now that we discussed last Thursday. We're looking at a 1.2% increase, which is $44 per home assessed at 100,000. So that's the lowest increase in 12 years, and this is what we're talking about with the issue that we have before us with the cap, that even though we have this budget before us that has the lowest increase that we've seen in such a long time, we still can't pass that budget as is without having at least the COLA ordinance. So the question was raised then, can we separate the two, where we could potentially pass the COLA ordinance, which is, the way I look at it, would be a one-time solution, so that this year, yes, we could increase our appropriations as we see fit in the budget that we looked at on Thursday. Or if that doesn't pass, then we would not be able to pass that budget as is, and we would actually have to cut back $150,000 approximately in that budget. So we actually can just pass that by itself if we would like, and look at the cap bank separately. We can look at the two items separately. So the cap bank then means that if there's any difference between what you're allowed to appropriate and what you've appropriated, you can bank that so that in future years, you don't run into this situation with the COLA where it's, if you don't pass this, you're not going to pass your budget as you're looking at it. So we have an option before us tonight to separate the two and introduce the COLA ordinance so that we can basically appropriate the monies that we intend to this year in this year's budget. Or we could keep it together like it has been, which is how it was introduced at the special budget meeting, which would allow for the COLA as well as the cap bank. So in discussing this with my finance committee, as in the past, we do support keeping them together upon the recommendation of our professionals, our CFO, our auditor. It is something the state allows, and it's a way that you don't find yourself in a tight spot in years like today, like this year, and you're not up against the wall every single time because this is banked, so to speak. So we would have no problem keeping on track that we are at. That's myself, Councilman Petrozelli, Councilman Martin, but we do want to hear from the rest of the council because we need to make a decision tonight as to whether or not to introduce solely the COLA ordinance and just basically let the one we introduced on Thursday die. Tina has that prepared for us this evening. So that's where the three of us stand, but of course, it doesn't take three to pass something. So we do definitely want to hear what others on the council have to say about this. So
Can I
if
ask
you
a question?
Sure.
How many years, I know last year's cap bank did not pass, how many
many prior years did it not pass?
The year before it did not pass either.
Okay, and the reason we did not run into a problem was because years prior to those 2 years, the cap bank did pass and we were able to bank money.
Right, there was enough banked that we didn't find ourselves in the position we're at.
So, in my opinion, that's what I believe we should do now, is not just pass the COLA, but pass the cap bank to bank extra money that we don't need right now, bank it for future years in case we find ourselves in that situation again that we did in the last 2 years where some council may not pass the cap bank. They don't have to cut whatever they put in their budget because it's in there and it's banked.
Right. I would say to clarify though, with the banking, it's not like we're physically putting money into a reserve or into a bank. It's basically just the ability to increase your appropriations by however many dollars that we see fit as a council in going through the budget process. So it's not literally taking money and saying, we're not spending it this year, so we're going to save it for future years. It's not the case. I hope that helps, but if,
And I'll add to that by saying, I was the person who seconded it the past 2 years, I will not second it this year. The ordinance, the way it's proposed right now is fine, and let that advance.
okay, so, all right.
Which ordinance is that?
The one
The
that we,
ordinance that we approved already has both implemented
Okay.
and letting that advance.
Mayor, I'll ask you, this was a major accomplishment of your administration the last 2 years. You were the tiebreaker. I know you don't get to vote that much. This was a big thing. You led a bipartisan coalition, and you're the reason there is no cap bank, and I believed in you, and I followed your lead on that. I think you did the right thing, and actually I'll defer to you on this. How do you feel about it?
I just came across, right before I left tonight, two different, the separation of the two. Every year is different. We are looking at different circumstances this year. At this point, right now, this minute, I'm not prepared to give you an answer one way or the other. I have to digest this because I really haven't had the opportunity to think about it, and what I have a responsibility also to protect the borough and to make sure that we have the ability to finance those things that are unexpected, just like you do in your home. On the other hand, as you mentioned, yes, I did support not having the cap bank. So at this point, I'm not going to give you a definitive answer. I have to let this roll around in my head a little bit.
Okay, if that's the answer, then I'm with the majority on this one. Keep it together.
okay, all right. So we can move forward then as planned. We introduced it at the special budget meeting. It'll be up for a vote at our next council meeting. So, all right, I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. Thanks.
Let me just clarify that. So then we're gonna have a vote on the, so it's been introduced, so the cap bank is gonna be authorized or not next meeting? The
I
meeting
am correct
before the
on that,
budget
right?
meeting?
I am correct on that, right, Tina?
The ordinance will be up for adoption at the next
The,
council meeting.
the idea behind it is if the cap ordinance doesn't pass, we would want to know that before we introduce the budget. Because if it doesn't pass, then obviously we have to go back to the drawing board. So that was the theory behind when the meeting should take place, so. Okay, that's, I think we're good on that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Council President Palmer, do you have anything you'd like to?
I just have one question I'd like clarified on the agenda. On resolution 14-157. It says that the contract amount is 2.8 million. Just for, I know that the project is supposed to be 3.2 million, but this contract amount, this is Flanagan's contract?
Correct.
Okay, so, and the $14,000 in change orders, this is already incorporated in his contract, it's not adding to it, it's part of the contingency money that's already in his contract.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Martin? Councilman Matthews?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just got a couple of things. First thing is, I did actually go on my desk and find what Sandy wrote a year or two ago. On the first aid, the last time, we've been giving them $9,000 a year since 2008. Okay. It was $8,500 as recently as '05, and it was $8,000 in '04. So I just want to give you the benefit of that. So we haven't increased the first aid contribution at all since 2008. So that was information I promised I would get you. And prosecutor, last time he had a salary increase was in 2010. I don't know how much before, but again, I remember I asked Sandy this on the fly. We can get some information on that. He has also sent me some information about where things are. I'll pass that on to the finance committee. But again, just along the lines, spoke in the budget meeting, just wanted to follow up. Okay. Second thing, I think you've all received my email about the, there is a bill in the New Jersey legislature, the assembly, that is sponsored by Amy Hanley and Jay Weber. Jay Weber is the former head of the New Jersey Republican Party, and he is an assemblyman representing Essex, Morris, and Passaic counties. This basically is legislation that would prohibit unemployment being received by seasonal workers. Okay? For those in the public who don't know what's going on here, basically our crossing guards, many of them, a majority of them, file unemployment every year for a seasonal job. This costs the town quite a bit of money, a lot more than I ever thought. Somewhere around $10,000 to $12,000, maybe even more than that, per year. It is a state issue as far as their eligibility. This goes ahead and would change the eligibility for that. It's been introduced in the Assembly. It seemed real close to passage. Council President Sluka went ahead and spoke to Assemblywoman Hanlon, and the unions got a hold of it, Democrats got hold of it, and it kind of went away. I would like us to pass a resolution that will go ahead and endorse this and ask for this to be adopted in the Assembly and in the Senate. It would save the borough a lot of money. Again, this is along the lines of my theme. If there's anything we can agree on, let's stop paying people for not working. Democrats and Republicans can come together on that. I'm old-fashioned. Sick day should be for when you're sick. Unemployment should be for when you're unemployed, not when you're not working on a seasonal job. Lifeguards, teachers used to do this way back in the day. So I would ask for your support on this, and I would also ask if we can get a resolution on for the next agenda on this, so we can go ahead and vote on it. Okay. And the other thing I have, the final thing, may have actually just gotten a lot less naughty. As many of you know, I was very upset that we do not have the LoSAP award resolution on tonight. My recollection was that it was clearly stated in the regular meeting that we were going to have it here. And I do not recall at all that we set up a special budget meeting that we were going to definitively move it. But that has happened. Let's put that aside for now. The fact that the cap bank is going to be voted on next meeting, I would be very, very happy if we could also have the LoSAP resolution on at the next meeting. And most of my concerns would actually evaporate if we could go ahead and make that happen. But I really need an explicit assurance that is really going to happen next month, because I was very upset that we do not have the LoSAP increase. Our first responders, first aid squad, and fire have not received an increase in 15 years. They get a lousy $1,100 a year, okay? They don't get paid. And it was supposed to be on this meeting, and I was very, very upset. Can we get it on for the next meeting?
I'd like to just share a point. At the more recent of the two meetings was the special budget meeting, which was Thursday. If you go to, and I look back at it, of course I remembered it, but I did look back as well. If you go to YouTube, under the Garwood Insight, part 2 of the special budget meeting, the shorter of the two videos, if you go into 6 minutes and 50 seconds to about 7 minutes and 20 seconds, you actually asked me, so when are we going to give the payments? And I responded and said that the procedure we supported as a finance committee was to have the night of the adoption of the budget. In the beginning of the meeting, the budget is voted on. At that very same meeting, we can have in the consent agenda the LoSAP resolution. And the idea behind this is similar to the discussion we had a few meetings ago about raises, discretionary raises, and that they should go, it was the sentiment of the majority of the council, that they should go after the budget passes, because if something comes up, I mean, I know we've discussed this cap issue, but also if something were to come up and we know about it, we have to budget for it. So it's this idea that we really should not lock ourselves into making discretionary payments before the budget's passed. And that's what I expressed at the special budget meeting, which you acknowledged, you said okay, and no one had brought up a question or raised an eyebrow at that point, so I don't see why we really need to deviate from that. I feel as though the payment, I mean, we could do it before the budget, of course, we could do it the night of the budget, we could do it in December if we wanted to, not that we want to, I certainly don't, but for procedure, I would think that after the budget would be the fair, equitable thing to do. And I know that volunteers in the fire department, the first aid squad, are not doing this for the $1,500 stipend. Currently, about $1,100, it would raise to $1,589, thank you, $1,589. I know they're not doing this for the money, so I would really like to err on the side of procedure with this one. I 100% support the LoSAP increase. It's something that the Finance Committee has budgeted the max for. It is something that every single one of us, including the mayor, has expressed support for at the special budget meeting. I don't think it's a question as to whether or not we want to give this. We certainly do. I would say for myself, 100%, yes. But I think procedurally, it's fiscally responsible to wait until the budget's adopted. And so I would think that we should stick with the procedure that was outlined at the special budget meeting. That's my own thoughts.
Okay, I don't want to relitigate what happened at that meeting or didn't happen at that meeting. What I heard from my colleagues with whom I spoke was that the concern about adopting it at this meeting was that the cap bank might not pass. Now that we're going to have a resolution of the cap bank at the next meeting, I think I had a nod from the co-councilman here. I really, really, really would prefer that we have the authorization of it at the next meeting. This is very, very important to me. I think this is very, very important to the chief, and I think this is very, very important to our first responders. We haven't raised this in 15 years. And if I thought what we were talking about at the meeting was the methodology of the payments, that to me made sense. Okay, I don't really know how that all happens. I actually really don't know, to be honest with you. But the authorization of it, I never thought was going to be moved. That being said, I'm not interested in going there. Can we go ahead and have this on at next meeting, but really have it on at the next meeting?
Well, I've stated my thoughts on it. I'm only one person. That's my thoughts. I did have a conversation with Chief Thoraldson, letting him know where the Finance Committee stood on that. And, I really feel for the volunteers. It's not all about the timing. And he really understood when I said, look, this is where I'm coming from a procedure point of view. It's something that you, Councilman Matthew, and you, Councilman Nearset, expressed when we discussed the raise for the chief of police, was that it should wait until after the budget. So out of equity, I feel as though that's the point it should happen, but like I said, I'm only one person. That's my sentiments. Let's all discuss it and see what we think.
We keep talking about LoSAP. There's more than just LoSAP going in here. We have the 16th officer. We have all the funding for the redevelopment project. We have to pass the budget and make sure that the cap bank passes and the budget passes in order to be able to fund all of these things that we're talking about. So we all agree. We all want LoSAP. That's not a question. But we have to make sure that the money's in there. Just like you would do at your home. You're working on a project, how are you going to pay for that project? You want to buy a refrigerator, you have to know you have the money for it. We have to know that the money's in our budget before we approve this. We already said we want it. That's not a question. Let's pass the budget first. So vote yes on the budget if you want to vote yes for LoSAP. So one thing has to come first, that's all.
I
So
agree
one
with-
more meeting is not a problem.
No, I agree with you both, but it's a procedural thing. I mean, we have to pass the budget. Until we pass the budget, we're just not gonna, so let's pass the budget. And we can do LoSAP. We discussed this in our finance meeting. Lou, I don't know how, I mean, you got your thoughts in addition to what
I feel exactly the same way that, Councilwoman Tedesco has put this. There is a procedure in place. You can't just make promises because you want to make a promise and not have it funded properly. I mean, it's just not the way that we've been doing business up here. I mean, on every project, no matter what it is, even if it's the athletic field, okay, you have funding in place before you spend money. And that's the procedure, and that's the way we have to do it.
Why would we spend money before we know we have it?
And as far as, supporting the fire department, I'm someone who supports the fire department 150,000%, because I was a volunteer myself. I know exactly what and why these guys do it. It's not just about the money, okay? So if that's the way that council can show their support and the citizens can show their support by increasing LoSAP, I am all for it, okay? But we have a procedure in place, and that's what you have to follow.
So is this then going to be put on the agenda on the April 6th budget meeting, the increase in LoSAP resolution?
The budget being adopted on April 22nd.
On April 22nd? So we're waiting for April 22nd to have the LoSAP resolution. Is that too late to now get it for 2013?
Can I ask everyone to pause for a second? This machine is cracked out and I can't, okay, sorry, I apologize, okay. Go ahead, Councilman, I apologize.
Okay, pardon, let me take a step back, because again, I was trying to avoid going into all this, but now it's necessary. I'm trying to compromise on this. The clerk had said, when I asked about this a couple meetings ago, that the Finance Committee had no jurisdiction over this. You had nothing to say about it. And it was not gonna be in this budget anyway, and did not matter for 2013. All right, turns out that was incorrect. Is that the case? That is incorrect, okay. Now, my hurry here is, I was pleasantly surprised to find out we can give this, so that was wrong information. The correct information is, we can do this at 2013, for 2013, is that correct?
Right, which is what I said at the special budget.
Are we all comfortable that that's the case if we adopt this on April 22nd?
Yes.
Okay, so let me state for YouTube, if we adopt on April 22nd, the LoSAP resolution, the firefighters and first aid squad will receive this retroactively for the 2013 calendar year service.
Jim, that was always the intent, for them to get this for 2013.
I didn't know it was gonna happen on April 22nd. This all started with really wrong information. That's where I'm coming from, Ann. So I was very pleasantly surprised, hence the, excuse the pun, fire that I was trying to build here to get this done. I didn't know, because we got wrong information, guys. Now that we have, I think, correct information,
Okay.
I'm comfortable if we can adopt this at the April 22nd meeting, the LoSAP resolution.
Okay, all right.
Then we can go ahead and vote for it. Okay,
Anyone
good.
can go back to the special budget meeting and watch it.
Excellent. Well, as long as they can watch this one too.
And
Thank you.
just one more thing, okay, and not to beat this up anymore, okay? Every year LoSAP comes out, and that's something that the fire department wants, okay? This year, we're able to do it. Other years, when other people have been finance chairs, they didn't do it. This is the year when we can do it.
Excellent. That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Mr. Neerstadt,
Nothing there.
Councilman Petrozelli.
The only thing I wanted to ask, do any council members have any questions about resolution 14-157 about the change orders? Now that, while we still have not.
Good that you brought that up. I know we've spoken about this, I know I've spoken with Tina about this resolution as well. I think it is important to note that on the resolution before us, we see an amount presented and an amount accepted. There were these items presented to the committee, and they did work the numbers down, and that is the amounts that are acceptable to the athletic field committee, if I'm correct. And it's my understanding as well that these items here, which are at most little under 30, little above $4,000, they had to be done, and that is part of keeping the project moving. So my question is, could you shed any more light that you think might be beneficial to the public about the start prices versus the amount that we're looking at before us tonight.
Don, you wanna go through these, or we'll go from together, or?
What I'm well aware of is the drainage was started out, the filling area started out at about 13.5, and I think it's, I don't know, the numbers in front of me, somewhere in the $4,000 range.
Right, 37.97.
The drainage in the recreational area was pretty much online on that particular proposal. I don't think we had to do much with that. It's a fair number. The tree work, I know, that they started out some crazy number, and it's been, in fact, it's been, we told them what we're gonna pay them, that's it. They almost ceased to negotiate, so the number is what it is. What we're willing to pay. What else do we have in
Catch basin?
Well, we had the increase in the fence height from 5 to
Right.
7 feet.
Yes.
And
Well-
that was interesting, that information, I learned about that, so that might be beneficial for the
Well,
public too.
yeah, fence was
on the rank.
standardly 5 feet around the entire complex. However, on the south end of the field, because you have a 2-foot high, 2.5-foot high retaining wall, you put a 5-foot fence next to it, you really would have only had that 2.5 feet of fence showing. So we raised that fence to 7 feet, so the contractor was entitled to additional fees for that.
And then we also had the 2x2 catch basin on the northwest corner of the field.
Field. I believe that's, that's, the detention basin sits right up against the westerly edge of the field. So the water's collected on the field, and in order to have a way of controlling have access to it, there was a 2x2 basin built on the other side of the curbing. So just an additional access point to get into the drainage area. The storm sewer, the detention basin is all under the field, and will be covered with the material, and consequently you don't have to take that apart to clean the inlet, so they moved it to the outside.
One other question I have, not directly related to the change orders, but the fence height increase makes me think about it, because a resident brought up at our last regular meeting that the fence between the basketball hoop and the street over there, it's pretty low, potentially, for if a ball goes over, it could be a safety issue. Is that something the committee has discussed as an issue? And personally, I know of a basketball court in Madison that abuts a very busy road, and I'm actually going to take a look at how they did it. I'll send you a picture, message of it, so that maybe you could bring that information to the meeting as something to look at.
Well, I was just gonna say, well, that just came up at the last meeting. Our next construction meeting is March 19th, so I was planning on bringing it up and halfway down.
Okay.
Kind of in between the two meetings.
And I'll actually bring it up to Kinsey, because, he actually designed it, so I'll have to see his reason for that.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
Anything else, Councilman Capitani?
No.
Councilwoman Tedesco,
I do have one item left, Mayor, thank you. I was looking through the February edition of the New Jersey Municipalities Magazine, and I saw an interesting article about Bloomingdale has their police department there has a Street of the Week program. I don't know if anybody else read that article, but it was very interesting. The police department basically has a sign that says Street of the Week on it, and they put it on particular streets in town that they plan to patrol more and things and of that nature. They actually also send the residents in a mailing they already received, basically a questionnaire that they can fill out about, basically a comment form if there's issues they see. And one issue that they said they always hear is speeding. And that's the same thing I heard from a lot of residents in town, especially on particular streets in the borough. And I feel as though that may be a way that we could show, even though we already have the police presence, maybe amp it up on certain weeks and show them that, yes, we are paying attention to your street. Because I know for residents with working hours and this and that, it's not always so easy to see when the police presence is there. But I think it would be something for us to look into at least and see if this is something feasible. I did discuss it briefly with our chief, And I'd like to speak to him further about it, but with the police committee, so, which I am on, but I do have, there's 2 other council people with me, so it's an idea that I think that the police committee should look at, sit down with Chief Underhill and see his thoughts and see if it's feasible for Garwood and if it's something that we want to do. But I thought it was a very good idea, and it shows you that that magazine is indeed pretty useful, so that's all I have.
We'll move to the public comment portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. It would be greatly appreciated.
Rich Bonfanti, 342nd Avenue. Back in August, I was here questioning what was going to be done about the parking on 300 block of 2nd Avenue. And I was told that it was in the process of something was going to be done. It's now March 2014. I'd like to know where we stand.
Hi, we did a study with the police chief. We did do a parking study. They did, I don't have the details with me. If I need, I can get it to you. They counted the cars on certain days to see who were commuters and who were actual residents, and they determined it was not a commuter parking problem, although some commuters did park. It wasn't an overwhelming commuter parking problem there, that it was mostly residents.
Really? Was it done on Sunday? Because Monday to Friday, that street's loaded.
No, it was not done on Sunday. No,
I'm
it
being
was not Sunday.
funny.
I can get you that information and.
Well, you know, I got other neighbors here, and all the people on the block, they want something done.
Okay, we could.
You know, I was told that if we keep doing this in town and we put it on our block, it's only gonna move cars, so let's drop the whole process. And that's not the answer. The answer is, people on the 300 block of 2nd Avenue are frustrated. You can't even get out of your driveway.
Okay, we can look at it again, and I could talk to the chief, and we can maybe look at, have another study done and see what's going on.
Well,
But we did do
have
that.
somebody come there at 6 in the morning, and have somebody come there at 10 in the morning, and see the difference.
Okay.
That's all you gotta do. I'll take pictures next time and bring them.
That's your job.
You know,
We'll look into
you
it.
know, Mr. Nierstadt's brother lives on that block. He'll tell you the same thing. Am I right?
Mr. Bonfanti, you might find this hard to believe, but I agree with you.
That's a first. No, really, seriously, it's a problem, and we gotta have it corrected. It's ridiculous. It's especially during a snowstorm, you couldn't pull out of your driveway. You couldn't get out of your driveway. That's how bad it was. And the cars parked right up to the edge of your driveway, sometimes in your driveway. And it's just, it's tough.
You're saying this is a 300 block 2nd Avenue?
300 block of 2nd
Okay,
Avenue.
understood.
One part of that you're mentioning too, with the blocking of the driveway, it's something that I face as well, being near an apartment complex on 3rd, and I think that's something that maybe we could discuss with the police chief, because that should also be enforced too. You should be able to get out of your driveway, people should not be blocking it as well. I know that's not the larger issue you're speaking to, but I do see that as also a piece of the puzzle.
You know, I'm fortunate enough that I have a pretty big driveway. I can get my cars on in my driveway. But other people
Right.
can't. People, there's apartments that, 2-family homes that they have no driveway.
Right.
And those people come home at night, they can't find a place to park. It's ridiculous.
I have forwarded a couple of emails that I received just recently again to the chief because I see what's going on right there. I can see it. And it occurs on the 400 block as well.
I see it down the other end of 2nd Avenue.
Yeah.
I see it on Oak Street. It's just ridiculous. I mean,
So-
something's gotta be done. And it's all these Westfield people coming in, because they don't wanna pay to park their BMWs.
There we go.
Well, we do have an ordinance, and I know it's not gonna solve a major problem, because it's only 5 spots, but we are gonna be selling, if the ordinance passes, 5 spots for commuter parking in the whole.
At Kennedy Plaza.
At Kennedy
That'll-
Plaza.
Yeah, but they're not gonna pay. They're not gonna pay to park their car. Why should they pay when they can park for free?
Understood. We'll take a look at it again.
Al Spiginga, 343 2nd Avenue, Borough. I just have a question in regard to what you said before about the survey. How were the people involved with the survey able to distinguish between the commuter cars and the resident cars?
You know, I'm sorry the chief's not here to answer that question. I believe that they watched the time of day that they came and parked and left to see if they were residents or, you know, got off the bus or the train and got in their car and just left. I think they could be. Is here? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Generally, you run the tag
I was gonna
reservoir,
say.
and it comes back to town, like on that block, you know, that's a local car, it's gonna be out of town, tags, and if it's really out of town, they see if it might be a renter, it wasn't changed their registration yet. But we do it throughout the course of the day, so it's not just a snapshot, it's throughout the course of the day over a period of days.
I know when I came home yesterday, Mr. Bonfanti and I were discussing the issue, and we were just counting the number of commuter cars parked on the street. We did not identify them as any of our neighbors' cars. And, it's just, it's catastrophe. You can't park in front of your own house. You're paying over $100,000 a year in taxes, and, there's no access to parking in front. We are able to put 3 cars in a driveway, but if I have to shuffle them, to get my wife's car out, my daughter's car out, it's a real pain in the butt. And we should be allowed, I would like to be able to park one of the cars temporarily in front of the house to make it a little more convenient for myself. But I just hope they would do the survey again because the situation is out of control. And then with the snow on the streets, with all the snowfalls we had this year, there was one day the plow came through 4 times. And if there's a car parked on either side of my driveway, I get the bulk of the snow when that car pulls out at the end of the day when the plow comes through. And, it's no fun. It really is no fun. And they don't care, they just pull away and go back to where they live. Okay, so I wish you would please look into that.
I will, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, all they have to do is, if cops come down the street at 6 in the morning, just look and see how many cars are there. And they come down at 10 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and see how many cars are parked there. That'll tell them right there.
Right.
That'll show them right there.
They're
Because
showing
6 in the
up-
morning, people.
Showing up at 6:30 in the morning, I see them right there in front of me. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a look at it, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other residents? Yeah, Mr. Patton?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Willow Avenue. That COLA and cap bank ordinance, I'm going to ask you again. It sounds like you're going to keep it combined as you discussed it last finance meeting the other week. But I'm going to ask you again, split it up. I mean, I don't see what the problem is splitting it up and then voting twice. I mean, it's that easy. I mean, if you're going to vote on it combined, then vote on it yes twice. But the reason why I want you to split it up is hopefully maybe you'll vote no on the cap bank again. But I want you to address the appropriations increase specifically when you look at that ordinance as a mayor, as a council, I want you to be looking at that saying, well, we're going to have to vote yes because the appropriations are over and above the 0.5% cap calculation. I want you to make that hard decision. I want you to be facing that decision and to actually acknowledge, yes, I will be voting that. The cap bank, as you explained it, and I do understand perfectly, makes it a lot easier to continue on with the budget and the increases to the appropriations. So I want you to have that separate. I want you to look at it, and I want you to look at it in the future too. I don't, splitting up the cap bank every time. I want you to look at it. I want you to face that decision and make that decision because you are elected to make these hard decisions, all of you. The RVSA at one time, 10 years ago, maybe it's less than 10 years ago, the council actually discussed whether to split the Rawwood Valley Sewage Authority costs out of the budget and then bill the residents separately. I was here at the council meeting, so at that point, I think it was just probably me and Andy all the time. But anyway, I stood up and I said, you gotta keep it in the budget and make that hard decision that you are supposed to be making when you are faced with budget questions and tax increases and appropriation increases. So I want to ask you, just split
the COLA ordinance from the cap bank ordinance. If you want to vote yes on both of them, okay, that's your prerogative, you're the elected officials. But at least split it up and address each one separately. That's what I'm asking. The second item, the seasonal workers, the cost, maybe there is a cost savings of $10,000 to $12,000. This came up, I guess, a year ago. And I said, if you really are going to all of a sudden slice off the unemployment to the seasonal workers, maybe you should take that $12,000 increase, take a little bit, and maybe give them a raise. Everybody keeps talking about nobody had a raise since 2010, nobody had an increase since 2000. I don't know if they had an increase raise over the years, but if you're going to all of a sudden drastically change their lifestyle and their salary structure, maybe give them a little extra to alleviate the pain. I mean, I'm a taxpayer and I don't like to see taxes increase, but it just sounds fair. Another item is on the change order list. I thought one of the change orders was $40,000 for video cameras, but I don't see that on the list. So could somebody explain what happened to that change order?
That $40,000 was not a change order. That was discussed when the professionals were here. That was information that they had just gotten that day. We haven't seen it, but we're gonna see that at our next monthly construction meeting. The other one that is on here that actually was rejected, that was for the perimeter fence.
Yeah, and that's actually my final question was, what is this about? Normally, something's in the specs, you provide it. If something's not in the specs, it costs an extra. So I mean, are you able to at least explain why they wanted $45,000 and it was rejected? Could you explain that?
Well, the perimeter fencing was for the encroaching properties, the issue that we had there. And Don and I walked out the site, we came up with the linear footage, and that was his price for the fence. He said no.
Well, there also was no perimeter fencing.
In the specs.
In the specs. There's construction fencing, but there was no perimeter fencing. In other words, the adjacent properties that are, the properties that are adjacent to the field will have, if they have a fence there, it'll still be there, but we don't intend to put up any additional fencing, except in the areas where we have the encroachment problems.
Right, yeah,
We-
the
I should
construction
say,
fence will
We
come
had
down.
no intention of putting up. The idea of getting the proposal was to fence all the open property lines with fencing. So there were two, in other words, to install perimeter fencing.
I guess in a rec complex committee, the issue of whether you will be providing perimeter fencing will come up again to discuss whether you really want it or not.
Right.
And subsequently, there's a good possibility that a change order will be forthcoming. I don't know if it's gonna be $45,000, but it's only conjecture. But it sounds like there could possibly be another change order.
I can't see, I mean, without getting too far, I can't see us doing that with this complex right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Mayor, could I just respond to one thing that Mr. Patterson said? Because I just wanted to clarify too on my, are we okay with getting a resolution on for the next meeting, supporting this in the assembly? Because nobody said anything when I said, Mayor, do you support putting this on for the?
I have a call out to Amy Hanlon right now because I do have questions and I didn't want to correct you, but Jay Weber is not the chairman and hasn't been for a couple of years.
Oh, he was, I said he was.
Yeah, he said he was and he's not, yeah.
He was in the past.
Yeah, in the past.
Yeah.
I will also, I know him, I will also speak to him. I have a concern with regard to that because it does not address whether or not they would continue to take unemployment insurance money out of the workers' pay. That's the one question. I have a couple other questions as well, so I'm not gonna say whether I support it or not. I want to speak to some individuals because I'm not, I've already basically said how I feel about unemployment. It's really important I come out of the employment industry.
Well, that would be really interesting, Nick, when you get back to us and let us know what they say, if you get to speak to them. Yeah, that's really
I'm
good.
curious because, I mean, you yourself, would you want to pay into something that you weren't going to be able to get back?
No, I think actually that's not correct. They could get unemployment if they were terminated, if they were laid off. They cannot get it for the summer and Christmas break and things like that. That's what this does.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but I have a couple other questions.
Yeah, if you can go, I would love to hear what
And
this.
funding,
yeah,
and how
that'd
they
be great.
would, okay, that's my question.
And I just want to respond to Mr. Patterson, when he was talking about taking some of this money and put it in there. The crossing guards, this is a legacy that predates us here. The crossing guards, you may or may not know, they work 2.5 hours a day approximately, 1.25 hours in the morning,
This has
1.25
already been discussed.
in the
Yeah.
afternoon. But he's asking the question. They are paid for 4.5 hours. This is a legacy from when they were paid, there was a lunch hour dismissal. They stopped working that 1.5 hour, but as happens in government, they were continued to be paid for it. We never went ahead and remedied that. My other concern, and Mr. Patterson really bring this up, is, look, we're paying unemployment based on 4.5 hours worked. They're working 2.5. That's a problem for me. All right? So this needs to be remedied. There's something that we need to do about this. There's a moral case to it. There's also a legal case to it, and I'm a little worried about that. So you bring up an excellent point.
I want to say,
Any other, oh, Mrs. Leonard,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't ignore you.
Ann Leonard, 536 Myrtle Avenue, Garwood. I want to make a comment about the parking. If you recall, a while back, we were so happy that we were getting more trains to stop and go. If the trains that stop and go now, they got the one early in the morning, was the best thing that ever happened to Westfield. If you notice that all the people, if you look at that morning train that they just put on, the new one, or 2 new ones in the morning, that's when you watch the train and you'll see where all the commuters are coming for those 2 trains. They free parking, they don't have to park any place in Westfield.
The parking issue needs to be addressed in the perimeter of North and South Avenue, because I'm getting people now from Myrtle who are coming in on Mayor's Saturday, because they've been squeezed off Willow, and they have the same problem that you folks do down on Myrtle, so.
Well, that parking space in Kennedy Plaza, you gonna charge for that?
Yes.
You think those people that park in there for nothing are gonna come and pay for that? They didn't pay for the Advantage ones in St. Anne's.
And
That's
ShopRite.
right, ShopRite too.
And ShopRite. Well, they didn't pay for the ones.
Thank
at
you.
ShopRite.
The ShopRite's being sold, but it's just not to commuters, and ShopRite's a little far for the train commuters, JFK.
But how about the ones that get the bus? Did you ever see the line that's down in the corner down there?
Oh, there's 10 people, I count them in the morning, I'm out.
Huh?
It's increased to the point that I notice it being there 30-some odd years. There's more and more every day.
Right, then go down to the next one, down by with the Blue Ribbon Cleaners, and you'll see all the 3rd Avenue, down past Oak Street
That's
and
what I'm
whatnot.
talking
They're all
about.
parked
We
there
have-
now.
The issue is kind of
So we're good
moving
to
on down
everybody.
the line here.
We will be addressing the parking issue.
Yeah, we need to. Okay, anyone else?
I have one question.
Yes, Mr. President.
Paul Tarantino, 520 Beach. It's regarding resolution 14-157. You have a total change order of $14,608.65 in front of you, but the contract amount for Flanagan is not changing. As I understood from earlier, that includes approximately $100,000 worth of contingency?
Correct.
This one here, is that
Are
right?
you asking, what's your question?
So the contract that is with Flanagan's has $100,000 of contingency built into their contract?
Yes.
I don't know if that's the difference between public and private sector. In the private sector, you would never give a contractor contingency up front. So am I understanding then at the end of the project, assuming no additional change orders, the contract amount will be reduced by the $85,000? Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Anyone else? There being none, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. And I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the workshop session.
Second.
Thank you. 5 minutes.